Drew, thank you for resending. Really appreciate that. I don't know. I missed your first message to us where you sent us your song. So I appreciate that. It sounded good, man.
Thanks. As of last night, we finally, we're still not on Spotify yet with it. Not that you would be happy about that, Ryan, but no, it's crazy. What a process now. So you pay $10 we chose CD Baby for this one. And it basically, it'll give you a quick mastering if you want, which is weird. It's kind of like, photo enhance on your pictures. Like it happens instantly. It's so weird. Probably just a compressor, but, and then it sends it out, and that put it on SoundCloud immediately. But this was almost a week and a half ago. And finally yesterday, my buddy Rio, our bass player, said, hey, we're up, and we're on YouTube Music now, and Apple Music, a couple others. Spotify has yet to pick it up, though. It's so crazy. But I do have it set up, so on Mondays it will review my earnings for the week and give me my dividends, the royalty dividends, which I'm saying in jest. I will not make a penny off of this sound in the next 50 years, but it's so funny. I had to set it up, connect my bank account. They're like, on Mondays, we'll review what's your threshold? So they're going to pay me out in groups of $10. So once it reaches $10, they're going to.
I think when that happens, we all open a beer. That'd be great.
Yeah, dude, I have stuff on Spotify from other bands and maybe somebody's hoarding all the money.
I doubt
I've never been paid a cent.
But I will tell you also, I have seized my crusade against Spotify. I think the war is over. It is doing what it's doing, and people are listening to music. They're enjoying their music, and
dude, I understand you. I've understood it the whole time. I simply was an early win over to that cessation, because really, YouTube Music, Apple Music, I don't use those much. Spotify's easy and it's there. And, again, my biggest hope and one of my biggest faults personally has been not buying the records that you find on there. That's how you support the bands that you discover. And I have a lot of them, but sometimes I find myself just keeping the downloads and not going out and buying the record, which is what we should be doing.
Yeah, my transition was a little slower. I initially started with buying the digital albums on Amazon Music, and then eventually I bought an Amazon Music subscription, which means I'm sure it's about the same price probably as Spotify if you're paying for Spotify, right? So I know no one's getting that money, but anyone who knows me knows that I also financially support their physical media if I like your music.
Yeah.
To a fault.
Yeah.
Now, if only we could get Ryan on TikTok.
Yeah, right.
I hate to be the one that has to address the elephant in the room here, but 100.
I'm Burt.
I'm Drew.
I'm Ron.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the 100 Albums Podcast, where we discuss the ins, the outs, and the absurdities of a poster that depicts 100 seemingly random albums, the only music podcast that doesn't actually play any of the music that we talk about. And yeah, we're still going through this list of 100 albums that appear on a poster that Drew got from his wife a couple of years ago for a present. This is going to be album number 26, so we're a quarter of the way done. We first went through this whole thing by listening to and reviewing 2 albums a week for an entire year, and we shared our thoughts and reactions with each other via video chat. Once we were done, we thought it might be a fun project to turn into a podcast, so here we are in a podcast.
That's right. And Drew, Bert, you say that every week.
I do say that every week.
And I would like to remind our listeners, Bert thought this would be a good idea.
Oh, well, you don't have to.
The rest of us just sort of like acquiesced.
We were like, whatever, dude.
But, just like Jack Black's character in that record store movie, he just kept showing up. I couldn't tell him to go away. So we just keep coming, Bert. We keep coming every week.
That's good. We like that.
Mostly to hear your research.
Well, yeah, it's my impeccable research. Thanks, Google. So, hey, let's get into this week's album. We're going to be talking about Elephant by The White Stripes. Vibe check, guys. What are your first impressions?
I was waiting on Ryan.
I was going to say silence. That's great.
Yeah.
Mama told me if I can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So
mine with these guys is just it's time and a place. It's reminiscent of an era. They were definitely a sound, and I go there when I hear it. So, but I've never been a devourous fan of theirs to buy their things, so I don't know much about them.
That's a big vibe.
Yeah.
See,
I don't think devourous is a word either.
I was wondering that actually.
I just wanted to
but
qualify it before before we get emails.
Hey, you know what? If we get any emails at this point, Drew, I don't care what. Like, if we could get one.
Is that actually,
I shouldn't say that. We got an email from Matt. I'll have to read it to you guys later. But that's the only email we've gotten in the past month. So
I could play the draw email game. I could do that.
But I like this album. I like the White Stripes. I don't like that they don't have a bass player, but at the same time, I kind of dig that they don't have a bass player. I mean, they were one of the first bands that I can think of around that time period that came out just as a two-piece. You know, they had a thing, they did their thing, and I dig the music. You know, we'll get into the good, bad, ugly later, and I definitely have some bad and uglies. But I mean, it comes up on my internet playlists, and I listen to it. You know, I dig on it.
Yeah, I think my vibe. What would my vibe be? I'm not sure how I would qualify it. Buzzy. It's got a real buzzy vibe throughout. That I'm gonna just start with that.
Like Ruth Buzzy?
No, like a broken Harmon mute. You know, like it's buzzy.
It's raw. So I think, Ryan, you and I are similar in that kind of buzzy, like there's lots of kind of distorted, whatever. Raw, I feel like I'm in a garage listening to two people play their instruments. And for whatever reason, Jack White is sweating a lot. I don't know why. Like, that's the visual that I have. I think he always had kind of like the greasy hair, and like he always seemed a little.
So this album is glistening for you.
It's something like that. So, yeah, that's my first impression. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about background here quickly. White Stripes formed in Detroit, Michigan in 1997, consisted, as Ron mentioned, of two core members. Jack White on vocals, guitar, and some piano, keyboard stuff. Meg White on drums and percussion. The band's formation and the origin of its name are somewhat shrouded in mystery, but it is widely agreed upon that Jack and Meg White were married when they started the band. They later claimed they were siblings to maintain a sense of mystery, a story that many fans believed. The name White Stripes is said to have been chosen because of Jack White's love for the colors red and white, as well as a connection to the imagery of the simplicity and purity of those colors. The duo initially started playing out at local Detroit clubs, and their distinct stripped-down sound began to gain some attention. Known for their minimalist sound, which often blended garage rock, blues, and punk influences, they became one of the most influential and celebrated rock bands of the 2000s. Their debut album, The White Stripes, in 1999, was self-produced and initially received little attention outside of Detroit, but their second album, Distigal, in 2000, began to gain wider acclaim for its raw sound and retro feel, drawing comparisons to 1960s garage rock and 1970s punk. Breakthrough came in their third album, White Blood Cells, in 2001, which included tracks like Fell in Love with a Girl and Dead Leaves and The Dirty Ground. These songs earned them significant airplay on alternative rock stations and a growing fan base. The album was a critical and commercial success, and it marked the beginning of their rise to fame. So, this album specifically, Elephant, their fourth studio album, released on April 1st, 2003, by V2XL and Third Man Records. It was produced by Jack White. kind of building on that back to basics approach as seen in their previous album, White Blood Cells. It was recorded at Maida Vale and Toe Rag Studios in London over 2 weeks in April 2002. Toe Rag in particular is a studio known for having retro gear, like not lots of modern kind of production elements. It's kind of very retro. Jack White produced the album with antique equipment, including an 8-track tape machine and pre-1960s recording gear. The album liner notes actually say, quote, "No computers were used during the writing, recording, mixing, or mastering of this record."
Whoa. Writing?
That's what the liner notes say.
Oh, I was not aware there was any writing involved. Keep going.
That was a sleeper. Okay. In a 2003 Rolling Stone interview, Jack White said that he wanted to focus on the primal aspects of music, stripping away unnecessary elements. Quote, "I didn't want to mess around with things that weren't essential. We wanted to capture the pure essence of what we were doing." The White Stripes did not have a bass guitarist, as Ron mentioned earlier. The opening riff in Seven Nation Army sounds a lot like a bass guitar, but it was created by running Jack's semi-acoustic 1950s style hollow body guitar through a Digitech whammy pedal, set down an octave. So no bass, it's actually guitar. From the New York Times, the album's standout quality was its sense of immediacy. Quote, "The rawness of Elephant makes you feel like you're right there in the studio with Jack and Meg White, feeling the heat and the tension that created these songs. The band manages to make everything sound urgent, important, and full of emotion." So this album peaked at number 6 on the Billboard 200 album chart. Rolling Stone put Elephant as number 449 on their 2020 list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. It won 2 Grammys in 2004, Best Alternative Music Album and Best Rock Song for Seven Nation Army. It was nominated for Album of the Year that year, but it lost to Outkast's Speakerboxx / The Love Below, which is a great double set. It sold over 3.6 million records. It is their highest performing album. Second was White Blood Cells in 2001 with 1.4 million. And third was Get Behind Me, Satan in 2005 with 1 million. So that's the research I've got. Let's hear it, fellas. What else you got?
I don't have research other than what I did diving into the music itself. So if you're bringing in the whole, bring it, Ron.
This is still
All
big
right.
picture. Yeah.
Oh, big. I was going to talk about gear because.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. That's fine.
All right. So, oh, shit. What was
Burt
it?
permits it.
Bert, may I talk about gear now?
Yes, you may, sir. Please talk
you,
about
sir.
the gear.
So a couple episodes back, we talked about, I think it was on Blue Lines, Massive Attack had a Digitech whammy pedal on there. And we had said how anyone who uses one automatically sounds like Tom Morello. I will give Jack White props on this because he uses one, has used one, still uses one, and he uses it in a way that doesn't scream Tom Morello. And so, I appreciate that. He does use a lot of older stuff, not necessarily in newer ways, but looking at his gear choices, the guy's on point. Like he just put out a signature Fender amp that is literally everything I would ever want in an amp. And it's gorgeous. It sounds wonderful. Dude has a great ear. To do this album on a 50s acoustic guitar with a, one pickup in it, going through not the best amp. I mean, he used a Silvertone with 6 10-inch speakers in it. It was the most expensive Sears Silvertone you could get. 2 pedals, 2 guitars, 1 amp. The guy gets good sounds out of not the best gear. So I appreciate that as a guitar player because I can listen to this album and be like, damn, that's a good sound. That's a good sound. Okay, that's not a great sound, but, it serves the song. And, Bert, you had talked about how he didn't use technology. That is a distinct Jack Black-ism. I got to appreciate that.
Jack Black or Jack White?
Oh, shit. Jack White. Sorry.
That's the second time we've done this, isn't it? Somebody else said, yeah, okay. Anyway.
Easy enough.
And I'll probably turn it into a drinking game because y'all can bust me on it because it's gonna happen again. But I do appreciate that about him. You know, he's like, hey, let's do things simple. Let's not overcomplicate things. So I like that about him and the approach with the White Stripes.
Yeah, I have so much to say about the music. But speaking to the guitar stuff that you're just mentioning, and I don't have answers to this. So if anyone amongst you do, or if listeners at home, my understanding is he came from a rather large family. He didn't sound like he was kind of scrappy like us. Where did the money come from? Because you don't just wake up and say, I'm recording on all this awesome old gear. I would love to do stuff similarly, at least related to my career. You know, I'd like, hey, you know what? I really want to record something with an Owens Martineau. You know what I don't have? An Owens Martineau. And I don't have the money to buy one. So where's the money that makes this happen? That's my question. Because it happened, obviously, this is their second album. Their first album did well, right? But they had similar vibes on the first album, right?
This was their fourth studio album.
Fourth, yeah. See, that's how much I like them. I knew that.
Well, but in the research, though, I did see somewhere, and I can't cite it, that the equipment they used was in not the best condition and may have been held together with duct tape. So I don't think we're looking at like pristine, you know, this is a well-kept retro studio. I got the impression this is like, yeah, someone had some shit in it. It'll work.
I saw that too, Ron. Yeah, I saw that too.
So yeah, I think
I'll beat you guys in the middle on that because I don't know anything about this band or this guy, other than what is the obvious. But hearing you talk, I also hear the place in the middle that says, you know, he's got conviction. Ron, I'm sure you'll speak to some things because I know you and I have talked about these guys on the side over the past years, and he's got conviction and stick-to-itiveness at the very least. And you know, to say, oh, I'm going to be original and use only analog, and you know, I'm going to sacrifice all of these things to do this. It's kind of like Quentin Tarantino with his filming and with his movies. I mean, for the purpose of maybe nobody else in this world but his own self. And I'll give it to him for that. But agree that you don't just stumble across those. Of course, in the day when he made this stuff, maybe he did.
I don't know. I don't think that it's a large coincidence. I think that's a hunt. And
right. That's what
I would attribute it more to what you're saying, Drew, where that was under my good. Sorry, Burt, jumping ahead.
Nope, that's fine.
Is that in terms of a vision for how this should sound, it's a very complete vision down to the smallest detail, much like a film, and making sure that everything is kind of, you know, like he scouted the locations, if you will, to make this all work. But I don't know. I don't like the idea of it saying like we're raw in someone's garage and right with them when it's something this specific. I feel like that discounts everyone who's a hardworking musician that doesn't have an extra 4 million laying around to make that happen. But anyway.
All right. So the console, or not the console, but the recording equipment he used, you had mentioned it by name. Like, how expensive is that shit?
I don't know. I assume vintage gear in any working condition at this point, it's got to be very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you prices on vintage guitars, amps, and you know shit like that, but I have no fund of knowledge for recording gear, especially microphones and you know tape recorders and shit.
You know, I mean, it's not digital, and this was the digital era, so anything at that point that was still working, you know. I guess that's the
yeah. So I mentioned Toe Rag Studios where they had recorded a good chunk of the album. At Toe Rag Studio was founded in 1991. The business relocated. Studio didn't open exclusively. Toe Rag offers clients music production using 8-track multi-track recording technology, and all recording media is magnetic tape. Recording is
Which
centered on an EMI Red .17 mixing console, originally from Abbey Road Studios. And
There's the money.
And Studer. But this is the studio. This is not this isn't stuff that Jack White owns or something like that, right? Not to say that they wouldn't have to pay money to use the studio,
right.
But
yeah, I was gonna say, I want to record on that one.
Monitoring is performed through Lockwood major loudspeakers. Vintage backline includes Vox and Fender amplifiers, and instruments include Farfisa and Hammond organs, as well as a 1965 Ludwig drum kit.
To that analog, I'm sure you guys saw this too, but that also supports the album release, because here where it was, 2003.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is well before the resurgence of vinyl, and it was released as a CD and as a double record.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the guy's got conviction with this audio. He's an audiophile, and he wanted to stick to the plan, and definitely can give him that.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the movie It Might Get Loud with him?
So I saw it in the research. I haven't seen the movie, but I have seen that it appeared in the research. Yeah.
That is interesting because he builds a guitar on camera with one string and goes through and talks about.
He says, "Why would you want to buy a guitar when you can just make one?"
Yeah,
dude, he would get along with Rod Stillman.
They should collaborate.
Yeah.
But to listen to Jimmy Page, The Edge, and him talk about music and everything else is really interesting, considering you have Jack White, who's all about the past and simplicity, The Edge, who's, really futuristic and technological. And then you have Jimmy Page, who's just the consummate rocker, kind of sitting in the middle there. If you have a chance, check it out. It's a good time.
That sounds pretty cool, actually.
Along those notes, in terms of kind of media appearances, in 2012, Jack White appeared in an episode of Portlandia. If you guys are familiar with Portlandia, he made a cameo in a sketch spoofing home studio enthusiasts who prefer antique recording equipment. So he's also very self-aware.
Funny.
So. Hey, this is
or he was willing to do the show. I'm not.
Or
sure.
he's willing to. Yeah, right.
I'm not willing to entertain.
I mean, I can absolutely see Fred Armisen and Jack White getting along famously. So hey, yeah, this seems like a good spot to take a quick break and hear from this week's sponsor.
Oh, sure. I guess since you're running the show, why don't we go straight to sponsors? Bert, is it okay if I start the sponsor now? Okay. Well,
hey, I'm just going by the rundown here, man. When conversation seems to come to a lull, I'm like, okay, next thing, let's go.
I didn't feel a lull. I felt like an upsweep of energy coming from Ron, but you quenched it, so no big deal.
That was therapeutic silence. I was just doing that for emphasis, but
that's all right.
Now we have to move on. So go ahead, Ryan.
Thankfully for Bert's sake, we do have a sponsor. And it's Old Faithful. Here we are, folks. This episode of the 100 Albums podcast has been made possible by the Christian Brothers Theater, who are excited to announce their newest production, The Condiment King. Fashioned after the popular, gritty DC interpretations of the Joker and the Penguin characters from the Batman universe, the Christian Brothers present a daring approach to the Batman villain known as the Condiment King. Do you guys know about the Condiment King, by the way?
I'm not familiar with
this is legit. This is a legit Batman villain, so look him up. Tony Danza stars as Buddy Standler, aka the Condiment King, offering depth and gravitas to the character in a way you'd never expect from a ketchup and mustard squirting foe. The story follows the Condiment King's rise to criminal power from his days as a floundering stand-up comic, then starting with rampant destruction of fine restaurants, and finally to destroying Kite Man's wedding with such grotesque violence that it makes the Game of Thrones Red Wedding seem like an episode of Blue's Clues. The violence feels shockingly real, said Branson Entertainment News. When he pins down the police chief and shakes ghost pepper sauce in his eyes, you feel it to your core. Finally, a company brave enough to take Condiment King seriously, raves Branson independent. And no one could possibly pull this off like Danza, a true master of blending disturbing violence and painful comedy. The Condiment King, only at the Christian Brothers Theater. Tickets on sale now.
I have never heard of The Condiment King. This is amazing, Ryan. And, Christian Brothers Theater.
Yeah, I mean, truly taking the riskiest choice. You know, now that these are in vogue, the backstories of our villains. You know, you can just see Tony with that pickle condiment headpiece on, squirting ketchup, probably getting some on the audience. You know,
I was going to ask if people had to show up with plastic like it was a Gallagher show.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the front row is the splash zone or whatever.
No, that's much too silly. This thing is dark. And for the Christian Brothers, which they kind of favor light entertainment, this is a really big risk. I mean, as someone who follows a lot of the politics here in Branson, I can't help but feel like this is some sort of reaction to some of the innovation that's been happening with their neighbors.
Yeah.
Over at George and George Theater.
I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, this one doesn't even have music.
It's just a play.
How do you have Tony Danza and not have it be a musical? That's how you know this is serious. So,
you know, maybe Tom Petty was imitating Tony Danza on Breakdown. Maybe that's what I didn't like about it. I think Ryan, you left the conversation when I was talking about Breakdown, but you just struck a chord for me about our last podcast.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had a little bit of a power failure on the last episode, folks. That's what Drew is referring to. I know that was a week ago for everyone here. So anyway, well, thank you as always.
Yes.
We appreciate you, Christian Brothers. You are our first sponsor, and we hope that your return of investment has been paying off clearly because you keep returning to us with hits like these. So.
Yes. And hopefully that by appearing on this podcast, they're seeing lots of increased ticket sales.
Oh, yeah.
Because we know we have a big following in Branson. So that's good. It's good.
And growing.
And growing. That's right. All right, fellas. Good, bad, ugly time on the re-listen. What is striking you about this album? Ryan, it's your show now.
No. Good. I think inarguably good is Jack is a great guitar player, and I love his quirky sensibility on solos in particular. Really kind of unexpected phrasing, very angular, lots of wide leaps in his soloing. I really dig that from him. He actually, I hate to take this from you, Drew, but does he remind you of any guitar player who also has very angular solos that may, I don't know, play on a lot of Tom Waits albums?
Now that you say that, I immediately went to the Big in Japan solo on Tom Waits' album, Mule Variations.
Yeah.
Who is the guitar player, though? Is that Tom?
No, it's not Tom. I'm trying to remember. For some reason, I'm blanking on his name, which is embarrassing because I actually have a lot of his solo stuff.
Yeah, you set me up for that one because I don't know the personnel in his records all the time. But yeah, very interesting point. I hadn't thought about.
A few moments later.
Oh, Mark Ribot.
Okay.
That's. I hope we can edit that to make it not look so foolish.
Yes.
The beauty of digital production.
Leave it in if you must. But yeah, Mark is awesome. But I do love Jack's soloing, and I do like I like a lot of his choices of guitar color. Mm-hmm. I think are also very exciting.
Yeah, that strikes me because he gets some really good just acoustic sounds, and it sounds simple. You know, it's just an acoustic guitar and a microphone. No, his sounds really good. I can't tell you how many just acoustic guitar sounds I hear, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, that's crap. You shouldn't have put chorus on it, or it sounds thin, it sounds tinny. No, his sounds organic. It sounds like an acoustic guitar. It sounds very, woody. So yeah, I can definitely see where you say that, man.
I think one great thing about him, and I really, I shouldn't say that I can't speak to whether I like or don't like them because I have never given them enough time to make a proper analysis. I like this album that we listened to. as a music teacher, I started teaching in 2000. And when Seven Nation Army came out, that immediately replaced, what's the quintessential guitar riff? I just got lost in my own thoughts.
Smoke on the Water?
Smoke on the Water. Thank you. Jeez. You're reading my mind, right?
I'll edit that one out too.
Yeah, nice. Okay. No, you can leave it in. I'm a space cadet. It's okay. I've accepted that. But Smoke on the Water. We grew up. Everybody, no matter if you like guitar or not, figured out how to play that riff. And Seven Nation Army riff. I walked into my bedroom yesterday to go on a trip with my kids, and somebody was playing it on the marimba. I mean, it is perpetual. He created that piece and will go down in history for that work.
Mm-hmm. And that's unfortunate. I can't slight Jack Black, but I can say fuck you to the rest of the world, because one. All right, take a shot. So, but you can't blame him. But every time I go to a UT football game, they play that. I hear it on every sporting event.
That band song. Yep.
Yeah. And I didn't like it to begin with. And now I have to hear it everywhere because it's a pep rally song. And oh God, I don't like it.
I don't hate it. And I would love to know why it gets in there. You know, it's just why it gets in the heads like it does. Because I got no issue with it, but there are better riffs out there. You know?
I've got stuff on that.
Okay.
But we're not there yet. We're still on good.
Is she going to tell us how that replaced Gary Glitter for hey?
Yeah.
You know, I also, in terms of good, the second track on the album, Black Math.
Yeah.
That is a cool song.
Yeah.
And it does a lot of stuff. Now, the kind of opening riff bores me a little bit, but I like that there's a tempo change halfway through the song. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that as a listener I didn't expect to happen that happens in that song, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Go on.
In the Cold Night, that needs to be in a Quentin Tarantino movie. Like I love that song.
I love her voice on that. I'm a sucker for the dry woman vocals that's just dry and bare and simplicity of it. That definitely got me. That song was good.
So that was the first time that Meg White was featured as like on vocals, and previously she had just done some backing vocals. So that was the first in their career, the first time that she sang the lead vocal.
It's special.
So, very interesting. Yeah.
Ryan, not to push the band on you, but if you like Black Math, I know more music from his project, The Dead Weather, than the White Stripes. And Black Math reminded me of Black Math. To me was Dead Weather coming. It was a prediction of the Dead Weather. They've got some really interesting, weird. I think the Dead Weather, he found that quirkiness. He found his voice and the quirkiness that he was doing with White Stripes, maybe. Yeah. But again, I don't know enough about their overall picture to say so.
I mean, early odds quirky is right. I mean, he's basically the Zooey Deschanel of music here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a great comparison, Ryan. I agree. For the good for me, I like Seven Nation Army. If for no other reason than it does have that earworm kind of quality. They play that at every Penn State football game, that kind of stuff. I liked Black Math as well. I really love the kind of the driving guitar and drums. I really like the vocal harmonies, and There's No Home for You Here. That again, kind of in that quirk, right? There's definitely some things going on there that's like, okay, I wasn't expecting this. From I preface it all by saying I'm not a White Stripes fan. I don't own any of their records and that kind of stuff. And so my impression of the White Stripes was Seven Nation Army, of this album, was Seven Nation Army and Hardest Button to Button. I thought the whole album was going to sound like those songs, and it definitely does not. So I also had In the Cold Night, just really interesting kind of pivot. Love I Want to Be the Boy to Warm Your Mother's Heart. Love that song. There was just something about it that was like really nice. I love the blues in Ball and Biscuit. I mean, it's like your traditional blues. So there's nothing like stand outable about it, but I like that vibe in that song. So there's a couple of my highlights.
Girl, You Have No Faith in Medicine. I like that one too.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that really gets me is their chord choices. Their structure in that.
Yeah.
I like those lyrics too. I'll move on from that one. I knew that was coming.
I think Ryan just threw up in his mouth a little bit.
The lyrics to "I Want to Be the Boy to Warm Your Mother's Heart." I looked it up because I was like, "That's an interesting point." Halfway through it, I thought, "Oh, is he saying what I think he's saying?" And it's a totally cool concept for a song, for a lyric. Like, talking to your love interest about their mother and wanting to totally unusual subject to write about. So I thought that was cool, for sure. I liked I Just Don't Know What to Do, I think, the best out of this album. I can't get it in my ear right now, but according to what I've written down, that was my favorite. I liked the melody. I thought he did his best performance vocally on it. And
I wrote down second favorite song as well, Drew.
Yeah, and it had some diversity, and so it shows that he can produce a great song. And
but that's the only cover on the album, though. He didn't write that.
Oh, it's not even his song?
No,
didn't even look that up.
Hal David and Burt Bacharach.
Burt Bacharach, baby.
I didn't know that was a Burt Bacharach song.
Yeah.
Dude, anytime there's a song that you're like, I think this is the greatest song on the album,
it's probably a
Burt Bacharach.
Yeah. Fascinating. I didn't. I mean, I'll admit that I did not. I ditched my research on this one this week. I didn't have a lot of time, but that's really interesting. And I'm not saying he can't write a good song, but he doesn't focus on that part of the song, and that makes even more of a highlight on it. Like, he's not focused on writing a beautiful melodic song, and maybe that's where he doesn't hit with everybody.
Well, that's a great segue, if I may, for a minute here. So I don't think he writes songs at all, but and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But when you talk about all the different elements that go into music, right? Harmony, melody, rhythm, in this case, lyrics are a big part of it. Structure, right? Jack, his approach is very minimal, and I love minimal approaches. Some of my favorite music is minimalist. There are people that do more with less than he has done here that make my soul scream. It's so good, right? What I think he does here is not minimalist. I think it's lazy. I'm imagining sitting next to him and he comes up with a riff, because the guy, I mean, he might as well be doing jingles for companies, because he can come up with a riff in like 5 seconds. But the difference is, if you were sitting in a room with him and he played that riff, you'd be like, hey, that's going to be a cool riff. He's like, no, that's the song. And that 2-bar riff is the song. Yep, that's the song. Well, how is that going to be a song? I repeat it. Oh, okay. And then he does that, and it's the whole album are 2-bar riffs, mostly displayed in octaves. There's very, very little actual chords in this album. It's mostly octaves and drums and riffs with no melody and lyrics that don't appeal to me. Now, I will admit the riffs do have some interesting syncopation. So that is what makes them catchy. I think that's what makes Seven Nation Army so catchy, is that the rhythm of it just has a little bit of a syncopated hiccup in it. Otherwise, we'd be just talking about a descending melodic minor scale, right? It's not that interesting, but it's got that hiccup in it, right? But it's still a 2-bar riff. Bum, 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 bum. We're gonna do this all day. And then I gotta have a bridge. What do I do? I don't know. How about 4/5? Okay. Back to the riff. Dun. Okay. Yeah. You've done nothing, Jack. You phoned it in. It's popular. Sure. But it's popular in the same way that McDonald's is popular. If you make something simple enough, of course it's going to be popular. I mean, this is kindergarten music, guys. This is literally kindergarten music. I would use this to teach some fundamentals of music to babies.
I can't disagree with that. That's the
you're not wrong.
Almost all of the riffs, by the way, are on the same pattern, almost all of them, because I went ahead and I went through track by track by track. We have some very square blues progressions that he uses on many tracks. I have nothing against the blues. I have nothing against blues in a two-piece, by the way, because the Black Keys, exact same time period, blues driven, much more interesting to listen to. And then the rest of them seem to be playing on the flat 3 and the flat 7 resolving back to 1. And he does it, those 3 riffs, almost every single song. I mean, I could share my screen, you would see. And then the other element that he does is he rips off the Pixies soft loud on everything. So that's the other thing that makes the riff work, is like, here it is quiet. Oh, is it? Oh, here it is loud. Hey, here it is quiet. Here it is loud. You know, but I mean, he's one step away from bum, 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 right? Like, oh man, that's a cool 2-bar riff. He'd be like, that's not a riff. That's a song.
It's another pep band song.
Jack White, cheer.
What's messed up is earlier in the week when, we did have a brief discussion about this, I had it fucked me up, because for the rest of the album, as I was listening to it, I was like, son of a bitch, he's right. And that is why I don't like Hardest Button to Button, Seven Nation Army. And it didn't ruin the other songs that you're exactly right about, but it brought it to my attention. I was like, that son of a bitch. And then I started listening, to other White Stripe stuff. And I was like, damn, that formula does fit. But him going towards the simplicity, he has a big thing with the number 3. Oh,
I mean, I suspect that it's all of these are just vehicles potentially for him to solo on. That's how I view his songwriting style. He's like, I got a riff. This is the chord changes. They have to repeat a lot because I would like to take some solos, because that's what I'm best at. I make great solos. And so these all seem to me like setting yourself up for that, right? I mean, like, if I knew, I don't know, if there's a couple of keys and chord changes where I sound best on trumpet, for example. If I put out an entire album where it was just that, so I could solo really good, I mean, I'd feel real proud of myself, I guess. I don't know. Anyone else pick up that these are just vehicles for him? Are they songs?
I mean, I definitely hear that in kind of what you're saying, that the strongest thing that Jack White is bringing to the table is his solo ability. So yeah, that I see a lot of sense in that. Sure.
It's so chunky, and not in a way that is charming to me. I again, we have discussed this week in and week out. I do not have my finger on the pulse of what the public likes, but I mean, I feel like,
well, but no, Ryan, I think but you just nailed it, though, in what you're talking about with that simplicity, right? The McDonald's comparison, perhaps a McDLT. But if it's simple, people will like it. People will gravitate toward it because they can understand it. It's not overly complex. It doesn't make you think too hard. It doesn't make you listen too hard. It's easily digestible. And I think that you may not have your finger on the pulse of what people like, but I think that we can all agree that people will like things if they are spoon-fed to them in an easy way. And I think that that's, in many respects, kind of some of the things that are happening here with, like, Seven Nation Army. To your point, it's the same riff over and over again with the turnaround,
But there was a lot of stuff that did that in this exact time period too, because you have your Jack Johnson, who was basically kindergarten music, right? You had Jason Mraz. Yep. That was like kindergarten music, right? So like
kindergarten music with a trilby.
And I find it all a setback in some way, almost like the rest of everyone was trying to do some cool stuff with Legos, and he had 3 alphabet blocks, and everyone's like, oh, I know the letter A and C. I like Jack.
But can't you say the same thing about the Ramones? It's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
I think the intent is different. I think that what was behind them, I think the songwriting's better than him. We have a Ramones album later. I think,
Yeah,
on
we
the
do.
poster.
Yes,
and
we
we'll
do.
get into that. I'm not 100% sold on the Ramones either, Ron. So that's
and
a
I'm not
spoiler.
either, but just, looking at
And
it
by
from,
comparison,
because
I mean,
there's,
and I'm also
there's
not-
a lot of bands that they do that though, where it's the same thing over and over again,
but they build on it, right? I mean, like, okay, we had months ago we aired my mixtape. The second song on that mixtape was called Stupidly Happy. It's less than a 2-bar riff. It's a 1-bar riff. Okay. But it just keeps growing and building, and layers change. There's melodies that interchange. There's harmonies that change around that riff. It does stuff, right?
Yeah, but it does. I get it. It annoys me, but I get it.
Yeah.
Well, again, what bothers me about music is going to be different from other people, because what I expect from music is not what most people want.
I was just gonna go.
In fact,
there.
I would say I like to be surprised. I want things that I can't anticipate. Right. This is the same reason I don't regularly listen to things like Beethoven. Right. Because I know it's going to happen before it happens.
Yeah.
And I realize that most people don't want that.
Yeah.
They want their music to do the music thing and not maybe grab your attention all the time, but just to sort of exist.
Yeah.
And that is my hang up. Listeners, that is on me. Trust me.
And
Well, I also
listeners,
think
Ryan has a lot of hangups. That's just one of them.
I do. I hang up all of my t-shirts. I hang.
Well, building on that though, Ryan, I think you're absolutely right too. I think that as someone who is steeped in music as you are, I mean, I would put all of us in that category, but I think you, even further, since you have a terminal degree in music, you have higher expectations. You want to be challenged. You want to, things to surprise you, like you said. And so when an artist falls short of that, then I can absolutely see, because you have the education and the knowledge behind it to understand why it's falling short and what things aren't happening that you would kind of like to see. Whereas, the person who's in the stadium listening to Seven Nation Army playing over the loudspeaker, they're just go team go, and here's my fight song or whatever, right?
I would leave the pedigree out of it entirely. I don't think I think it's just a listening preference, just like a movie. Some people love the roller coaster element of seeing a blockbuster action movie, right?
Yeah.
And for other people, that same played out, I know exactly what's going to happen thing, special effects don't mean anything to me, might be completely immune to the experience, and they'd rather go watch Eraserhead, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that has to do with education so much as it has to do with what kind of entertainment do you want to absorb.
Sure.
And everyone wants something different.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Because I have met many people who listen to music the same way as me, and some of them have 0 degrees.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't.
If I could interject.
Well, you have to ask Burt.
You beat me to it.
I should put my little emoji of the hand raise on here.
I think Drew wants to say something, guys. Everyone quiet. That's the applause.
That's the clap hand.
Yeah.
No, I think all good points, but to me, it boils down to maybe it's just you flew too close to the sun. It's too much of a good thing. Like maybe if he visited this less, it would be less condensed and a better appeal. But it doesn't matter that you don't like it. It doesn't matter that anybody doesn't like it. But I don't know if it worked as well as we're giving it credit for, because I didn't know anything by the White Stripes except for that song throughout these years. And again, based on what my students, I was a high school teacher then, never heard anything from them in the world of pop, minus the Seven Nation Army, and chose to listen to some myself over the years. It's a Jack White thing. I always, you can hear him a mile away, it's coming, but I've never dug in, so I have no complaints. But I see all your points. But maybe he just chose to do that too much, and therefore I agree with you. The laziness, you get. Or he just decided he's going to be a one-trick pony and come up with this one thing and do it. I mean, that's a thing too. So,
well, imagine how powerful that would be, though, for a live show. Because in terms of music retention, you are asking your listener to remember a 2-bar motif.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy to regurgitate. So if you're on stage and then you play one of those of your 150 that you've written, which is still a skill, as I mentioned, I think he would an amazing jingle writer. But there's immediate recognition from the audience. They're immediately pumped up because they recognize something. Yay! So it's got great crowd appeal. And he's still doing it to this day. I know I shared it with the group earlier on his 2024 album. The single that I heard first from it on the radio, absolutely exactly the same.
Yeah.
In fact, almost the identical chords. Like, I don't know, not even different keys. So he's favoring the same places on his guitar. I call that lazy. But.
And you're exactly right. But if you go back and listen to his 2-3 previous albums, much different. But now I have to go back and listen to them to see if that exists, because they are some wild albums, really good. But I never picked up on it. So now I'm going to be going back and going, okay, is that the well that he keeps, pulling from?
Well, and I do own one of his records.
The goofy one with the hologram on it?
Absolutely. I bought it because the record was interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lazaretto. I mean,
did you find all the different things with that?
I did, but I didn't use them all because one of them you have to actually play on the label.
Oh yeah, I didn't do that either.
There's a hidden track on the label, and I didn't want to ruin the label.
Oh, you have to dig through the paper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that one's 78 RPM too.
Yeah, I didn't want to fuck up my needle.
Right. Well, I think back to the chords that he uses, you said the flat 3, flat 7. We talk about that flat 7 magic a lot. And that's another, maybe he just overdid it thing. I've been listening to our releases, and I keep calling that a major 7 because it's a flat major 7. I'm like, why am I talking about the major 7? And I realized I just mean the flat 7. But yeah, he maybe he just overdoes it. Maybe that's the thing. But I forgot about that record he released with a hologram on it. That's so cool that you have that.
It is.
It works. Like, is it all?
Oh yeah, it's got a one side plays the wrong direction, which is really fun. Both sides have a lock groove. It's just one of them starts with a lock groove.
Wow.
I mean, it's really clever.
It's creative. I mean, it's hard to be that creative these days. You have to go way outside the box to stand out.
So,
I mean,
I think
it's a piece of art.
The moral of the story here, Ryan's big critique would be if he would have put that effort of creativity into the actual music rather than what's being pressed on the vinyl. Maybe, I don't know, but
much like Christmas music, everything has its season.
Yeah.
But he also has anyone else get like strong Tim Burton, Willy Wonka vibes from him?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Big time. I mean, he even shows up with his little record making machine, like a Dr. Seuss kind of thing.
Yeah, isn't that more of a visual? Like, doesn't the
so that's I think too. One of the things that I had here, as not good or bad, just kind of is that he's an artist, because I mean, if you look at some of their album covers, some of the stuff you guys are talking about here with the hidden gems and whatever, he clearly had a mind for not just what's being recorded, but how are we presenting it? What is the art that we are presenting to the public? I mean, I talked about it in some of the research, how he's got the colors red and white are kind of fundamental to him, and that is a motif that appears through all of their albums and kind of promotional materials and that kind of stuff. So I definitely think that there's definite creativity there. Absolutely.
While we're on the subject of the good, the bad, and the ugly, can we talk about the last track?
Yes, please. Thank you. That I have that as one of my bad, and not because it's necessarily like musically a bad song. I could take it or leave it, but like, what? I literally have, well, it's true that we love one another. Just what? And it builds on this. Are we married or are we brother and sister? That must have been a weird inside joke to them or something. I haven't quite figured out what's going on there, but
as far as Wait, hold on. I got distracted. As far as their marriage?
So the lyrics to well, it's true that we love one another. Meg White says things like, I love Jack White like he's my brother.
Oh, yeah.
But
I saw
they're
what just
married.
happened.
Actually, they might not be married by this point. I'll have to go. I have to. That gets into my hot take. So they're not
think
married
they're
by
married.
this point. They're not married by the time this record is recorded. They are not married. They're divorced.
All right.
Because this is 2003, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're divorced at this time. But anyway, it gave me the ick. The lyrics gave me the ick.
That is, to me, it just read like silly hipster bullshit. I don't know. Like, I would equate this to the track that my brother and I did at the end of the Disco Bitch album. I mean, it's just silly. It's a throwaway.
Yeah.
Do anything.
Yeah.
It was popular.
Well, they should have made it the hidden track on the label then.
Yeah, good point.
Maybe it is. We'll never know. Because Ron won't play it.
Any other good, bad, ugly? All right. Results and ratings then. I gave it a 3. Drew gave it a 4.5. Ryan gave it a 3.5.
Ooh.
Average score was 3.67. Ron, where would you wait? You'd go much higher, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I'd do a 7.
Okay.
Because I would actively buy it if there wasn't other albums I wanted more than this.
Yeah.
But still on the list of shit to buy.
Drew, Ryan, would you guys change your score, or are you satisfied with where you are?
I think 3.5 is good. I mean, there is some stuff that excites me, as I mentioned, almost as much as it annoys me, but it also activates enough of me to be invested enough to be annoyed. And not everything does. I think, was it last week that we talked about Tom Petty, and that didn't do enough to actively get me annoyed, right? I had zero investment in that album. So I feel like that in itself is a powerful statement.
Yeah.
Drew, how about you?
I'd stick with it. I think, the simplicity stuff didn't bother me as much as it clearly triggered Ryan. But it doesn't also appeal to me strong enough to say I'm going to keep listening to it.
Yeah.
It was a good listen. There were some things in there that I thought were really cool. There's a moment in the I Want to Be a Boy to Warm Your Mother's Heart that he uses a turnaround that I instantly related to some Cat Stevens work. It was like a 4-chord to 3-chord situation that stands out. I mean, he chose some musical things in the whole record too. And also in that song, he takes a long time. You play around for a while, and all of a sudden you get the release of the 5-chord. There are things to celebrate for that, but I don't know if I'd go any higher with it just because it's not sticking in my head.
Yeah. So I would change my score because I rated this lower than Ryan did, which is saying something. But last week with Tom Petty, I gave it a 4.5 in my re-review. And I like this better than the Tom Petty. So I would give it a 4.51. Or something just so that's higher than Tom Petty to kind of be consistent. But so like I said, the average score that we gave it initially was a 3.67. We ranked it number 86 out of 100. So a little bit higher than Tom Petty.
What did Matt give it?
I think Matt had dropped out by now.
Matt had quit by this point. Yeah, the last album that Matt rated was Metallica. So
thanks a lot, Matt.
Yeah. Jeez, Matt.
Really? What was Matt's Jump the Shark album? Metallica, you said?
Metallica was the last one he rated. Well, but the funny thing was that he rated Metallica, and that was like our 12th or 11th album. But he didn't rate anything on 10, 9, 8, 7. He only did the first 6 albums consistently, and then number 11. So.
Matt, you slacker! If you're
typical
listening,
Matt,
you know he's listening.
Man, that's that Florida lifestyle.
I know, right? Hey, speaking of Florida, let's go to Margaritaville.
Yeah, let's.
That was a good segue. If this album, I just looked at what my first one is, and it's funny. If this album had a restaurant or chain of restaurant, a la Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. What would it be, and what would it be called, and what would the theme be? got 2.
I have none.
You have none, Ron.
I have none.
I did one.
Well,
Mine is the food for my fingers, which is a play on the air near my fingers, and it would all be children's finger food. You could get Cheerios, and you could get corn puffs.
That's funny.
You could get fruit roll-ups.
I had also the air near my chicken fingers. It's a fast food joint, but that's my throwaway one. Drew, do you have one?
No.
Okay, so my big one is an Italian restaurant where everything is red, white, and black. That the tablecloths are the red and white checkers, and it's called Seven Nation Parmi.
Ha!
Hey.
I thought that was pretty
done.
clever.
Well done.
because I can't think of it. What do they call cold soup?
Gazpacho.
Okay, there you go. In the cold gazpacho.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, that works. All right.
Did you guys know these guys were also on the movie Coffee and Cigarettes by Jim Jarmusch in the same year, 2003?
No.
It's a movie I would strongly recommend. I've brought
seen
it up
it.
before.
I didn't remember it though.
Yeah, I've brought it up before. It's a vignette movie. Tom Waits is also in it as our.
Ding 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 ding.
There is also
Everyone drink.
Man, Iggy Pop is in it. I feel like some of the guys, who's RZA and Jizza, they are in
Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang. They're in it. It's worth a watch. I remember it is Meg White and Jack White, and they're talking about like a Tesla coil. It's a really weird.
Huh.
Ryan, it'll probably just piss you off because I think it's very.
Oh, I could like it. You never know.
Yeah, but I feel like I remember it. I should have. I meant to watch it in preparation for this to talk about it because I bought the DVD because I had to have it, and I can't remember. I'm sure it was for Tom Waits, but I haven't ever watched it since. But it's worth a rewatch. But I think it's a weird little vignette that the two of them are in. They're talking about a Tesla coil, and I think there was a wagon. It's a really weird little skit. But
Bert, do you think that instead of a restaurant, that it'd be more likely that Jack would have like an S&M dungeon, and that could just be called Ball and Biscuit?
I mean, it could be. Could be.
So
that was one of the ones I was going to try to come up with, like something like a chicken and a biscuit or something like that. But I thought that was a little too on the nose.
Because I was thinking it would have its own Tesla coil to go back to what Drew was talking about. It would be involved.
All right, so you go into the restaurant and instead of putting a ball gag in your mouth, they put a biscuit in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of throwing rolls at you, they just and you walk in like a pig with an apple and just.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, what a good episode this is.
This is great. Great. Hey, let's any hot takes about I have a hot take or about White Stripes? Ryan, go.
I think Megan White is a very underrated drummer. Listening to this album, I remember she got a lot of grief back in the day, and I don't hear it. I think, especially for what the music is trying to do, she is appropriately where she needs to be on every part of that kit. And it's a very small kit.
So there was an article I read years ago where she was trying to practice and get better. And he was like, no, stop practicing. I want you to be at this level. It works. You know, you don't need to be a technically good drummer. You know, this is perfect for what we're doing. So I think she's just got a really good feel, but that goes back to him wanting the simplicity of it.
Yeah, it's very clunky and chunky, but so is everything on the album. I think it fits it perfectly.
Yeah. To her drumming, this is a very interesting question, and I'm gonna pose this question to you all, and we can discuss it in another episode because you're gonna have to listen. But in Seven Nation Army, I wrote it down at 3:33, but I think that's probably roughly 3:33 time. There's a mishit in the bass drum. And I wasn't trying to be that crazy about analysis, but it caught my ear and I listened back. I'm like, holy crap. So because the syncopation changes. So it's either on purpose that they do two different syncopations, one after another, or she made a mistake and they left it in, which I find odd because I feel like he's somewhat of a perfectionist. So Now that we're talking about the drums, I forgot about that note I had. So check it out if you
I
want to go
will,
back
yeah.
and re-listen.
Okay.
And I don't
We'll
know.
put that in the show notes.
Love to hear your opinion.
Yeah.
And if people are listening at home, where might they give that opinion, Bert?
We're not there yet, but
Oh, sorry.
100albumspodcast.com is our website where we have a contact page. You can send us an email. Other hot takes, Ron, Drew?
No, not. All right. So I don't know if this launches into something else. And if so, Bert, you can just give me shit for it. But this was a launching of Jack's career because he got notoriety on this, which allowed him to go into the Raconteurs, the Dead Weather, his
the James Bond soundtrack with Alicia Keys. In case you forgot about that, he and Alicia Keys did one of the theme songs for a James Bond film.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
but I mean, without the White Stripes, you wouldn't have Jack White. I mean, I don't think he would have come out with one of his albums to near have the impact. So without this, you wouldn't have the last 20 some years of his music.
Yeah,
Bummer.
Hey, my hot take is that they're nice people. Some of the research that I found that I didn't know where else to put in our rundown is that Meg White and Jack White dated in the mid-90s. They were married on September 21st, 1996, with Jack taking her last name. His bachelor name was Gillis. So he was Jack Gillis until they got married, and he took her last name.
Yeah, his dad was Toby Gillis, right?
That's right. They divorced on March 24th, 2000. So that means they were divorced when this album was being recorded. And in May 2009, Meg White married guitarist Jackson Smith, son of Patti Smith, in a small ceremony in Jack White's backyard in Nashville. So it seems to me that, you know, if you get divorced but continue to work with someone, like, you have to be nice people to be like still together professionally. And then when your former partner remarries, you host their wedding in your backyard. Like, I think that's kind of cool. That's kind of.
It sounds like their love changed to a brotherly love.
Ooh. I have read articles and where Meg White had a problem with their popularity.
She has anxiety. She has severe anxiety. Yeah.
And so I think that played in large part to the dissolve of the White Stripes, him trying to be a protector of her, and, you know, realizing their life and careers are changing, and he's still very protective of her, and, you know, everything else. So they are nice people.
Yeah.
Was Toby Gillis some TV show from the 60s, Ryan? Is that where that came from?
Don't you worry about my little tangents.
Is that well, I've been.
Don't you love how I just let that roll off? I'm like, yeah, that's it. Okay, so keep going.
Just left that there like a fart.
What's that name?
Down your throat.
Anyway, I think one thing that should be said about his niceness, if it was in that category, is, Ron, you're the one that told me about this. You were going to see them, maybe the Raconteurs group, and they made you lock up your phones, and that was the first time I had heard of that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw it on another advertisement for a concert that I was looking into going to, and they said it right there that you will not be allowed to take your phones in, or it was something about locking your phones up, like be here, be present, and I don't know. That's pretty crazy. That's a great thing to do,
especially in this day and age. Yeah,
and I love it, and I would have trouble with it, but yeah, it's super interesting.
It's tough. I mean, like, again, we're trying to police the way people experience music because of how we feel about it, and this is the same problem that I face. Like we talked earlier about Spotify, and I don't think at a certain point it's just not fair. This is how people are enjoying themselves. So
yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what you want, right? People to enjoy themselves. Hey, 100 Albums family, thanks so much for listening. Go out and listen to Elephant by the White Stripes and let us know what you think. What did we miss? Let us know at 100albums@bertislo.com. That's 100albums at BERTISLO.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at 100 Albums Podcast, or you can check out the website at 100albumspodcast.com. Join us next week as we chat about the Bodyguard soundtrack
Yes.
Oh, that's
With-
next. Ooh.
by Whitney Houston, mostly. But until
man.
then, thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks again to our sponsors, the Christian Brothers Theater, and we'll see you next week, everybody.
See ya.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Are you fucking shitting me? The Bodyguards next week?
Bodyguards next
Right
Oh,
back.
fuck me. What
Bodyguard,
Remember the bodyguard being really long.
yes, and really just.
Yeah.
But
That
we can
interesting.
talk. We can talk a lot about Dolly Parton again.
Can we make the Bodyguard soundtrack recording an evening one?
Maybe.
Because I'm thinking drinks are going to need to be fucking involved in that.
Maybe.
Ryan, the proposal on the floor is that for the Bodyguard soundtrack, we do an evening recording,
Or we wake up early.
or we wake up and
start
have Irish
drinking.
coffee.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, what's keeping you from having a drink in the morning, Ron? You got morals?
No, I really don't.
Yeah. Oh, a little one-on-one time with Ron.
What's happening?
Ruined by Burt.
What?
Hey, did you guys notice? Look at Drew's video feed. It looks kind of grainy. That's a wood grain joke. Sorry. I'm here all week.
Oh, yes, I see it now. It's dark. I didn't notice the grain until you. It's a fine grain.
Oh, that's very
Oh.
supportive.
That's my local radio station. One of their little fundraiser things. I'm a regular supporter of our radio station. Listeners at home, if this makes it into Bert's edit, 90.9 FM, The Bridge in Kansas City. You can stream online, and they are an independent radio station, listener supported, and they are awesome. I have discovered a lot of great music on their but the morning host, Brian Truda, this is what he says, and it really makes my morning. He always lets you know, hey, like, you're part of something here. We love you.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Our one
The
out of
world needs more of
Nashville is 90.3. And when I lived in Nashville, that was always on in my car. And like you, I heard so much good shit there. That and college radio stations.
Well, like, which podcast was that we were talking about with the Canadian radio stations? I thought Drew would be in that with me on that, but no, I guess not.
Oh yeah. No, I don't remember getting Canadian radio. It was Canadian Airplay TV.